Hello, I'm Katie, and this is Stepmum Space, the judgment-free zone where we'll talk candidly about the fairy tales and the scary tales of stepmum life. So whether you've been a stepmum for years, you're just starting out, or you want to understand the stepmum in your life a little bit better, this is the place for you. Now, when I started this podcast, I had a really clear vision of wanting to create safe spaces on and offline where stepmums could get support, validation, and share their true experiences and feelings in order to make life more enjoyable and to support mental well-being, which is so often put to the bottom of the pile. What I didn't expect was to be contacted by women all over the world, and it is so wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to each and every one of you who listens, messages, rates, reviews, and takes the time to get in touch and tell me how the podcast has changed your thinking. It just means the world. Today's chat is with my first Aussie guest, Katrina. It was a total joy to talk to her, and I think you will love this chat. She's super calm, positive, hilarious, and just an amazing woman with a brilliant mindset. Now, this chat was recorded in the heat of the summer, so as you listen to it, hopefully it'll take you back to those balmy days while we're all stuck in this dark and gloomy part of the year. Enjoy the conversation. Hi, Katrina, then. Thanks for joining me today, all the way from Australia.
Yeah, thanks for having us, just me, Katie. It seems like we've done a weather swap at the moment, though. It's been absolutely rubbish here, and I hear you guys have been having a bit of a heat wave. So
it's roasting. I mean, I love it, and I live by the beach, so it works really well for me, but yeah, not so much for a lot of other people. It has been really nice for a change.
I'm sure for a change, probably might not want it all the time.
Yeah, I always think whenever Wimbledon's on, I always think that's like the rest of the world judging the UK. And it was really sunny this year. So I was thinking, oh yes, they're going to, people are going to realize it is a nice place to live.
Yeah, it's great. It's this time of year we always get, like, everyone goes to Europe. So you get all of the pictures in the feed. And it's just looking amazing, everybody I know. And I think because no one's been for so long, to now have these photos, and it's looking like the brochures.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? Quite often it doesn't.
Exactly.
So, look, it's so nice to talk to you, and it's really cool as well because, when we started the podcast, I never dreamed that people all around the world would listen. So it's just really nice to know that the support and the stories are reaching people everywhere. So I'm massively excited to chat to you on the other side of the world through the magic of Zoom and just kind of hear about your story and your situation and whether things are any easier, better, different for stepmums on the other side of the world. So why don't you start with, as we always do, telling us a bit about your family?
Yeah, sure. I mean, isn't it so interesting that it really is universal? You kind of look for resources, I think, when you become a step parent, and it really doesn't matter where it comes from, but it is so universal. And I don't know, there's some good part in that, in recognizing that, wow, like, people are struggling all around the world. So yeah, my story, I've been with my partner. We've just celebrated 2 years together. We've been living together for 12 months. He's got a daughter who's 8 and 2 dogs as well. We've all moved in together 12 months ago. So 2 dogs, an 8-year-old and 2 adults coming together has been fun. I think We've sort of managed to do it now. Yeah.
Amazing. And does the daughter have a mum in the picture?
So mum's in the picture. It's 50-50 split.
And do the dogs go back and forth, or are they with you full time?
Well, actually, they were going back and forth. They've only just stopped. We've got the dogs full time now.
Wow.
Which, so it was a lot. We would go from a really full house to a really empty house.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice having the dogs around full time.
And how has it been then, the last couple of years, becoming a stepmom, moving in together?
Oh God, look, I don't think that there's one word to sum it up, that's for sure. It's been a journey, I guess, is what I can say. Looking back now, it kind of makes a lot more sense than it first did at the start. It's just been something people say, oh, you know what you're getting in for, or it's all right, he's got a kid, you'll figure it out. But it's definitely been beyond anything I could have imagined at the start, that's for sure. Both good and bad.
It's that roller coaster, isn't it, of emotions, and you don't know whether you're on or off, and there are so many kind
Mm-hmm.
of outside factors that you have to think about. So what was it like when you first met your stepdaughter?
So like when we first met pre-moving in, we had, I'm just trying to think, we had started to do some video calls and stuff. You know, we'd always been pretty open. My partner had told her about me, and so kind of started off with phone calls and then video calls, and so there was, you know, getting to know each other, and then
And
yeah,
were those video calls like during COVID times?
it hadn't quite hit then. It
Okay.
was, we were still probably 6 months off it hitting.
Okay.
It was more just the, hey, I want to say hi to her, or you
Yeah.
know, she was definitely, I'm sure her dad was, you know, his time with all this was all of a sudden being taken up, and she wanted to kind of get to be part of that. So then we actually, it was Christmas time. She got a bike for Christmas, and I'm really into riding bikes, and so it was kind of like she was riding the park and I met up and we just went for a little bike ride and went for a play. And so it was just a really nice, you know, way of getting to know each other without it being too formal or sitting across a table or, you know, in your
Mm.
face kind of thing. And yeah, it seems like it went well. She got ice cream and she was really happy. We were all really happy. So yeah.
That's good. And how did it progress from there?
Yeah, we still had a little while of just hanging out. I would go over to their place more often than them coming to mine, and it was fine. You know, I think there was probably, now looking back, there was the factor of, you know, I was able to leave, and so I wasn't there all the time, and so it probably was a little bit more fun because it was like this visitor coming over rather than a person in your space the whole time, for all of us really. But we got on well. There was never really a time of not getting along, or it's funny, even just before she met me, and so that first time she said, oh, you're not like what I thought at all. And for some reason, I have no idea where she got this from. She thought I was a pop star who hated kids. No
Okay.
idea. Yeah. No idea where she got that from.
That's a kind of unusual thing to think.
Right. Yeah. And quite specific.
Yeah,
Quite specific.
I'm thinking, is there like a TV show or something in Australia with like a
Yeah,
stepmom pop star?
yeah, I really, I must ask her where she got it from, because I don't know. I really don't know where she got it from.
How long had her parents been split up when you came on the scene?
They'd been split up a few years, so they'd actually moved from India. So my partner's Indian, and his daughter's Indian, and so they had moved from India. It kind of happened pretty
Yeah.
soon that when they got to Australia.
I guess your stepdaughter was kind of pretty established in her routines and things. And it sounds like she was sort of happy that you came into her life.
Yeah, exactly. I think that she was happy to have someone else in her life, and you know, she was happy to have a girl around. You know, she's getting to that age where she was 6 turning 7, at that stage where it was nice to have someone else around to do some girly things with, that, you know, wasn't dad all the time.
Yeah.
Who was still did the girly things, but just, you know, just didn't quite get it the same. It doesn't hit the same way.
And a lot of the time we hear that when the children connect and form easier bonds with the stepmom, there's often a correlation between kind of a good relationship with the biological mum at home. So was she sort of supportive of your relationship with her ex?
Well, I know we must be the outliers on that one, because she definitely was not supportive
Oh
at
no.
all. Yeah, and that I think probably has it's definitely, not probably, it's caused more friction of everything, and it definitely meant then that my stepdaughter was a bit confused, because she was like, I like you, but my mum doesn't think that I should like you, and this is really, you know, this is really confusing for me, because I want to like you, I want to be your friend, but then also it's really upsetting my mum. And she couldn't talk about it. She couldn't, you know, because she'd come back and be like, oh, we went to the park and we did this and blah blah blah, and her mum would be like, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to know about it. Yeah.
And it's so hard, because on one level you can have like real empathy with a mum who's finding it painful sharing her child.
Yeah.
On another kind of side, you have to think like, you're the grown up, let those feelings off with a friend, with you know, somebody else, like let your kid be happy.
Yeah.
Really, really difficult. How did you find out that your stepdaughter was feeling like that?
Well, so her mum would ring my partner and tell him, like, you know, basically I needed to back off kind of thing, and make it really clear her feelings on the situation.
And back off in what way?
I don't even know. Like, was it that I needed to back off so she wouldn't talk about having a nice time, or, you know, like not be there at all? Or, you know, for her, like, I think she'd be happy if I wasn't, this is the mum, she'd be happy if I wasn't at the house. You know, we could hang out, but it's too much for me to be at the house.
And do you know, was the marriage ending not her choice?
It was her choice, right? This is wild. It was her choice, yes. And so, yes, I mean, just that was the start of the game of ping pong, really. It's just like, it was kind of almost like walking on landmines, you know, because you'd be like, oh, I think that this is okay. But then something would be set off. You'd be like, oh God, that's not okay. And that's when I think I learned to just not even walk on the landmines anymore, just to do what we were doing, because we couldn't win either way.
It's quite bold of you to be confident enough to just do what you wanted to do, like for it to, I mean, I'm sure it did affect you in some ways, but for you to be able to just kind of go, this is our life, we're just going to get on with it.
I think I could see that, like, we were happy when we were doing the stuff that we were doing. And that's why it was because I just was like, but when we do the things we like, we have a good time. If I could see it was impacting and that it wasn't going well, then of course I would change it. You know, and you know, it's always been, for my partner and our relationship has always been the thing that has guided us, and we've always wanted to make sure that that's strong. And so I guess it was part of the commitment to that of, you know, being like, well, if we let this come in between us, this is really not a good start at all.
That's amazing.
And yeah, something just was like, just right, just like, okay. And because we weren't winning when I tried the other way either.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
You tried to please, that didn't win either. So
yeah, you just end up kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place on it, don't you? And ultimately, it's kind of like you say, it's your family, it's your home, the child's happy, you guys are happy, and you're not doing anything that's undermining the other home or the other family or, you know, anything like that. It's just obviously was very, very difficult for your stepdaughter's mum. Has it got any better over the years?
No. No, I mean, maybe slightly better in that it's less time, like it's more time between events, as you know, between the landmines, I guess, if you want to keep that analogy. But she hasn't come around at all. I think we're just better in, I don't want to say dealing with it, but we're better in not giving that part attention. You know, we know, like, what happens at her place happens at her place. What happens at ours happens at ours. And that can be so difficult to actually, like, it's so easy to say, right? But in practice, you're like, God, this is hard to eat my own words. You know, it's really, really hard, but it does work.
And do you have a relationship with her at all?
No, nothing. I couldn't reach out if I wanted to. It's non-existent.
And your partner, what's his relationship like with his ex now?
I think it's pretty functional. It is very functional. It's just, you know, pickups, drop-offs, information about their daughter or the dogs, but that's about it. Yeah, just functional. I mean, she's done some pretty awful stuff that has, I think for a while he was trying to go the whole, but I need to co-parent, so I need to have a really good relationship thing. But then she's did some like rage texting and just has said awful things. Yeah, and it's just damaged it so much that he's realized now too that if there's no just small part with her, you know, there just isn't, unfortunately. I would really love it to be, you know, like, it's great that she has all of these resources, you know, their daughter has extra resources to care about her, but it's not, we don't all view it like that, and I can't convince her. and that's not my job, is it?
No. And does her mum have a new partner?
I'm not sure. Seems like for a while, but now I don't really know. And we just honestly, we just don't ask questions.
Yeah, it's
we just if it comes up, we'll talk to to the little one about it. But other than that, we don't even ask questions.
Yeah, we hear a lot on the show that when mum gets a partner, things really calm down. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for you that she meets somebody.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. It would be nice. Hopefully, I don't even know that it'll have that effect, but if it does, bring it on. There was one time that she came to our house, which has left its mark. So we had just all moved in together, and it was the week that lockdown was supposed to end in Australia. It was supposed to end on that Saturday. It ended up getting extended for 3 months or something. Anyway, so brand new house. No one had been there. We'd all just moved in together, and our first visitor was the ex-wife. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you say visitor, do you mean kind of someone with flowers and?
Well, yes.
I
did think probably. She didn't bring a housewarming gift. There was no freshly baked cookies. No, it was a situation of the daughter had wanted to see mum. And so the decision was made for her to come over, and it all happened pretty quickly. It was kind of like she's coming over at 6 o'clock, and I think it was about 5 to 6.
And was that like coming into the house for a cup of tea, or was that just coming over to collect?
No, yeah, she was coming over to talk to her daughter. Okay. Yeah, so she was coming into the house. And it was all super fresh at the time, and I kind of said, well, look, I'll just stay in the bedroom, I don't really want to talk to her. And my partner was like, well, I think it'd be nice if you were outside. And then it was awful. I hadn't seen people for weeks because we had already been in a lockdown. I hadn't seen anybody, let alone someone who I don't get along with, and it was just awful, and the bloody place smelled like a perfume afterwards. And I just remember getting the incense and just kind of walking around the house and
saging
and
her out.
To smudge it, basically. Yeah, I was just trying to get this energy out. And she didn't take her daughter or anything. She wasn't picking her up. It was more just a conversation. In a very small way, I think it did help that I couldn't see this at the time, but I think she was able to come into the house, and it was brand new. And so we just decorated her bedroom beautifully and bought her everything, and she'd wanted a bunk bed. So we got it and we put together, and it was really nice. And I think she actually saw that and was a bit surprised that her room was so nice and was so for her, for her daughter. And so I think in that tiny way, it helped.
Yeah, that's good, because I guess underneath it all, you'd hope that all a mother wants is for their child to be kind of happy and settled elsewhere. I know it's not the case, and there'll be people listening rolling their eyes going, no, my bio mum isn't like that. But you have to hope that underneath all the other shit that is what people want.
I really, and I think that's what gets me through this, is I really do genuinely believe that I might not be able to see it, and her behaviors don't seem to indicate that, but I really do think in her own way, that's what she wants for her daughter, and that hope, it does get me through. Yeah, you just have to keep clinging to it.
So it's really interesting to know that your stepdaughter and you have been able to form this really good bond, in spite of the fact that at home it's being made sort of implicitly and explicitly clear that her mum doesn't really want her to have this relationship. Do you think your partner's had a role in helping kind of facilitate that bond that you've been able to create?
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. He's always been super supportive. He lets us do our own thing. Now we'll often have conversations that don't include him, and that I don't share the details of, or I just share some things that I think that might help. And he's never been sort of, trying to find out or jealous or anything, and so, yeah, definitely, without a doubt, he's really helped it, because he's always been focused on his daughter, and he just understands that there's some things that he might not ever understand, but he knows that it's for her, it's for her best. And so he's more than happy for that to happen, which is, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about it now as you ask me, and yeah, definitely, without a doubt, I have to give him a huge amount of credit for that.
And
And also, you know, he made a great choice, didn't he, in his girlfriend? So
of course, of course. I mean, we all know how difficult it is being a stepmom, and I guess for you coming at it, and you didn't have biological children beforehand, so it must have been a massive lifestyle shift for you.
Oh my goodness, huge, like well beyond anything I could have ever thought of, you know. But I think he was really clear at the start. It's him and it's his daughter, you know, like he's got a daughter. This is his priority. So he was very clear about it. And I was actually clear that I would love to have, you know, stepkids or kids, and you know, okay, that's how it is, that's the situation. I'm more than happy to have some kids around me. And you know, I don't have kids because it's just not gone that way, you know. So it's either way, it's not a huge deal to me. It's always been, you know, him as the person is who I love. And it was actually from the very first day, it was his clarity about his daughter that attracted to him even more, because he was so very honest and open about it. And he was like, this is my deal, you know, you want to be with me, this is how it is. And for me, I was like, that's so cool. That is awesome.
It's really nice that you go into it, and obviously you don't know what you're getting into, but to have somebody who can kind of say, this is what it's like, as in you're very clear in the beginning, okay, my life is going to have to change significantly, although you don't know necessarily what's coming up, but it gives you some idea of, am I up for this? So I'm going to not be spending every other weekend traveling or at amazing concerts just yet. That will come.
Exactly. I was happy to make that choice. You know, I was, you know, ready. It was really different for me. I was living by myself. I had a cat, you know, like everything was pretty low maintenance. And I guess though I was aware of that, so I made sure that I had my own time still, and that I could do my own thing, which was definitely made more difficult by being in a lockdown and COVID. But I still found ways to make sure that I felt like I was fulfilled, and that I wasn't just giving all of my time to this new thing, because I knew that if I just gave all of my time, I would end up resenting it.
And it sounds like, Katrina, like you've done things so brilliantly. It sounds like you've just totally nailed it right from the word go. Like, have you got any tips for anybody else who might be finding things hard?
I guess the tip is, like, don't believe everything you hear, you know, like, of course it might sound like that, but it hasn't been without its own, you know, issues and all of that sort of stuff. I don't know. I think any tip I would say, I think the things that have helped me is like being really intentional about things. You know, I was intentional about support groups that I joined, and I joined some of the wrong ones at first, you know, that would come back out. It was just feeding really negative stuff in general about birth mums and stuff. And it was just, the stories were so harsh that I had to end up unfollowing it, because I was just like, it's poisoning my brain. I don't need that stuff. And I think that's been massive, is just being really intentional about stuff. You know, if you want to improve something, listening to 65 stories of awful birth mums isn't going to help you.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, you know, I'm always really keen that we share the truth on both sides, you know. And it's, you know, I say quite a lot on the show, like, my son has a stepmom, and I know it's not easy, but it's not really easy for anybody. And I you know, I fundamentally believe in most situations, if you unpick all the shit and all the emotions that come with divorce and separation and breakups, if you get right to the bottom of it, you've just probably got two quite vulnerable women, both feeling quite exposed and insecure, and both wanting to do their best.
Totally, 100%. I totally agree with you. And like, often both my partner and stepdaughter will say, like, oh, you know, our mum does that, you know, you do the same thing as mum. So apparently we share quite a few character traits, which makes sense, you know, like, of course we do. Yeah, I think that too. You strip it all back, and we're just two little kids at the end of the day who are trying to do the best we can with the
Yeah.
tools that we were given. That's
Yeah.
it.
It's funny. I have the same in my house. Sometimes my son will say something about, oh, his stepmom said this or something. And I'll say, well, I agree. I think that's really sensible. And I can see his face thinking, like, there's no
Yeah,
backup.
yeah. Yeah, I thought you were going to take my side, you
Yeah.
know?
I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
she's sensible. And,
exactly.
likewise on the other side, sometimes my stepdaughter will say, oh, well, my mum said this. And I'm like, well, I would say that if you were my daughter and it was my decision as well. Oh,
Yeah,
okay, then.
yeah. I mean, all right, sometimes I think, oh my God, I'm so lucky. I don't have to make all the big decisions, you know?
Mm,
Like I get to be my stepdaughter's friend, which
mm.
is huge. I mean, of course I do lots of other parent stuff, but still the really big decisions come down to mum and dad. And so I'm like, wow, this is actually a pretty awesome situation to be in, you
Yeah,
know?
and it's amazing that because I think, do you find a lot of the time that you would instinctively support the decision that they're making? Because where it seems to be difficult is where stepmums find that either their partner or the biological mum's making decisions that maybe jar with their values or how they believe children should be brought up. I know that's something I found hard around kind of my
Mm,
stepkids' access to social media. I really didn't feel comfortable
mm,
with it, but I didn't have a
mm-hmm.
say.
Yeah, actually, same situation. You know, stepdaughter's had a tablet. She's had like a tab thing, and she's had a WhatsApp account for a long time, and she's got a TV in her bedroom. You know, like all of these things are just stuff that if it was my kids, they would never even have it. You know, and it bothered me for a little bit, and then I just got over it because I was like, what's the, you know, also I can see she gets enjoyment out of it, you know. There's
Mm,
actually stuff that I'd never considered. And also she can communicate with her family who's still in India. You know, it's not as simple as all kids should and or you know, or they shouldn't. It
mm.
really isn't. And I've discovered that through you know, being part of this family is like, oh wow, yeah, there's different ways, you know, and neither of them are really wrong or right.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was kind of cultural differences and what may or may not have come up there. Because as you mentioned, your partner and stepdaughter are Indian and obviously moved to Australia several years ago, but still have all that culture and heritage in them. That's who they are.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
how
yeah.
has that been sort of merging cultures as well?
I think it's a continual process, and you know, it's tricky. It's stuff I'd never even realized. But I mean, a funny story. Once I was at we've got a pool in our complex, and this was after the lockdown was over. And anyway, chatting to some neighbors, and they kind of got a bit interested about us, you know, and said to my stepdaughter, like, who's she, me, to
Yeah.
her. And she kind of thought about it for a second, and at the very exact same time as I said, I'm her dad's girlfriend, she said, she's my auntie. Because in India, right? In India, that's what you call an older female, an auntie,
Ah.
right? And so you've got me going, I'm her dad's girlfriend. She's my auntie. And it was just
And
like,
the neighbors are like, who is this
the
family?
neighbors were like, oh, okay, awkward. And I mean, bless them. I think they just changed the topic and said, oh, isn't it a hot day and the water's so cool?
Yeah.
And thankfully they moved on. But that was a funny moment, you know, it was really a funny moment, and definitely a cultural thing of she said what you would say.
Yeah.
But you know, stuff like, I tell you, the hardest thing has been like eating times. Australians, you know, I don't know if it's like this in the UK, but we like to eat pretty early. So dinner around 6:30 is pretty normal.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Indian culture, people eat a lot later, 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I just can't stretch. Well, I can now, but I couldn't stretch myself till that late. I was getting
Yeah.
really, what is it, hangry, and just like I
Yeah.
needed to eat. So we had to meet somewhere in the middle, but it actually was a lot harder than what I would have ever thought. Something like as simple as when do we eat dinner was
Yeah.
a really big one. Yeah, and then there's all sorts of beliefs around, like, I think, her parents are more conservative. I think I'm probably more just, open in general. So maybe it's not even so much culturally, but some of it is cultural, the way that things are done, or maybe what you tell children, what you don't tell children. Having definitely like open conversations isn't something that, or my partner has told me, that's not something he's used to having growing up. Even now, you wouldn't speak back to an elder, or not even back to an elder, just speak to them. You just do what they say. And so that's really different to me. Whereas I would be like, ask somebody, do you want to talk about this? But just even asking is rude. Whereas I would never think that. Yeah. So that is just lots of learning, trial by error, I guess, because we've realized, and we talk about it a lot actually, how much culture affects us and how we never realized those things. And especially I think, when you're in a culture, you don't even realize that, right? So as an Australian, I don't really realize I have a culture until I'm with somebody from a different culture and those differences are coming up.
Yeah, it's so interesting to add that cultural dimension. I guess there's probably been other times when culture's played a part in your family.
I think it's in the smaller things than it is in the really big overt things, like life is pretty much the same anyway. You've got to get somewhere to live, and you eat, and you go to work, and all of those sorts of things are pretty much the same. But it's the minute details of like when you go to work and at what age is it appropriate to tell them something. Do the kids ever get to sit, at my family, once, the kids are welcome to sit at the adults table because at Christmas, and it just gets rowdy, and the kids are allowed to comment and say something, and it gets very loud, whereas that's not something that's not an experience that they've had before. It's so different, and it's not just country of birth, it's family cultures, and then wider family cultures, and it's incredible how much influence these things can have, and they don't, they can offend people really easily.
Yeah, and I guess that culture thing, kind of as you say, it's not just about the culture of your country of origin, it's also about the culture that your family had before they split up and you started a new family.
Totally. And your wider family as well. I'm sure I'm a different person when I'm with my wider family, my parents and my brothers and the whole extended family. So that's got its own culture to it as well. And a big thing I didn't say about my partner's mum is staying with us at the moment. And I feel like that's a whole other podcast, so I won't go too much into that.
How is that?
But that's been, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and like I said before, we've got 2 dogs and 2 adults already and a child. So now we've got 3 adults, 2 dogs and a child.
My gosh.
And, we're doing okay, but it's definitely been a big learning experience for both of us, because of COVID and stuff. My partner hasn't seen his mum. The last time he saw his mum, he was married. And so, wow, what a big change. He's divorced. There's a new woman. Not only that, she's living with him. It's been a lot. So sometimes I'm not sure if it's cultural or if it's just personalities or, what the hell is even going on there.
Yeah. How do you get on with your mother-in-law?
Thankfully, really well. We'd only chatted on the phone before and text messages and stuff. She's got 5 boys. So I think that's probably chilled her out quite a bit, because she's just, and she's in her 70s and her son's happy. And so how do you argue with that? If your son's happy, her granddaughter's happy, that's a big thing for any parent.
Yeah, I remember my mother-in-law, who is just brilliant. She sent me such a lovely card the first time she'd met me afterwards, just saying, I'm so delighted to see my son so happy.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? It's those small things that have such a massive effect. Yeah.
So I'm really interested, Katrina, like obviously you've had these bumps in the road like everybody has, and you seem to have managed them so well. So are you kind of super resilient?
I think I'm probably resilient. I think it's probably has added to it. I've had a lot of stuff in my life that I've dealt with, and I'm in my 40s, so I kind of have dealt with a lot of stuff and done a lot of self-development, which has helped me get to a point where this is just another thing to deal with, and I mean, that sounds really awful to say it like that. It's not like that, but I think I take it less personally because I'm at that stage where I just don't take things as personally. And I've just learned that through the hard knocks.
It's interesting, actually. Whenever I meet a sort of other stepmom, I know that they're going to have a strong level of resilience, or if they don't already have one, they're going to develop one. So I do think resilience is one of the most important things as a stepmom to have, because you do have to go through those knocks and you do have to find ways to bounce back and for it to not affect you so much. One of the workshops that we're running is around developing your own resilience and how to do that. And some of the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way have literally been game changing, not only in the stepmom role actually, but just in life.
Totally.
And you seem like such a positive person as well, which I just love.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely. And I mean, I think that my choice for me is always like the happiness. And there was a point, for a while, and it can't be a while. It's not like I've been in the game for that long, but it was kind of like, I don't want to be miserable. So I'm going to have to choose. If I choose happiness, then you have to deal with that stuff. And it's confronting. It's getting a reframe on it as well. Because I remember at one point just thinking, oh God, I'll never be a parent. This is awful. I'm not allowed to be part of her life. Like, it's awful. But it was just so woe is me that I had to be like, just hang on a second. How can you be part of her life? This is not that dramatic. There is a way, and maybe work on finding that rather than trying to bang down the door and just be accepted. It was accepting myself and being like, no, I'm part of this family. We're going to have to find a way.
Yeah. And I think that's so powerful to say. Like, two things you said then really stuck with me. The first being around like, okay, I am going to be part of her life in a way that works for me and our family, and working out what that is for you. Because I think when somebody becomes a biological mother, yes, there are a million different ways to be a mum, but it's pretty clear what society expects of you. It's pretty clear what your role is. When you become a stepmom, actually, there's a million different ways to be a stepmom, and it all depends on circumstance, who's in the picture, who's not in the picture, how often they're there. So I think kind of working out what that role is and what you want it to be, you can feel so lost, and it can be so helpful to get clarity on, okay, this is how I'm going to do it.
Totally. And there isn't one way, and I'm sure it's going to change for me, like this isn't the only way either. There'll be other things, times down the track where I reassess it, or where it isn't great. You know what, if I was a birth parent, it would be bloody hard too. That's what I think to myself sometimes too. I'm like, if I was her birth parent, I would be having really hard times as well. I think either way, you've got a tough time.
Yeah, you have. I think a lot of the women I talk to behind the scenes on the show talk about struggling with working out what their role is. And we've put together another workshop specifically on this, which is on our website at the moment. But there's all sorts of challenges around, sometimes women don't want to take on the responsibilities that their partner wants them to have. It sounds like you and your partner have kind of been on the same page though throughout.
Thankfully. And about, that's what I knew going into the relationship, that's what I want. So he probably wouldn't be my partner if that wasn't up for grabs. And I think that helps getting clear before, at whatever stage it happens to be that you go into this. It's getting clear about those things that you want. It's really hard once you're in it to try, and it's not going to change.
Before I let you go, what is the support like for stepmums in Australia? Because in the UK it's pretty woeful.
It's the same here. I went to the internet because that's about it. And, I felt within my friend group, I found it really hard to get support, because it was just like, you're not a mum if you're a stepmom. For some odd reason, that seems to still just be like, if you were a mum, you would know, and it's like, but like, no, I still know stuff. So yeah, no, I found it really hard, Katie. And so it's so amazing. The work that you do is so important. It's just wonderful to have found it on one of my many rabbit hole. I don't even know what I was Googling, but it's progressed from my stepkid hates me to, like happy step families and much more positive things now, which is a lot better. But the biggest thing for me was accepting it myself. because that societal narrative is awful. It doesn't even support anyone. It doesn't support the kid. It doesn't support the birth parents. It does nothing for anyone, this whole, you know, evil stepmom thing. I don't know what the point of it is.
And that's exactly what I always say, like in our culture and our media in the UK, who, you know, particularly vicious towards stepmoms, but they also love to pit an ex-wife against a new wife. And it starts off like that from the beginning. And actually, you know, all of that is so unhelpful. Everything like that does not serve, as you say, anybody. So I would love to be able to sort of see a change at some point soon, please.
And actually, you know what? I think that's a thing. I think my friends, like, I've never had the friends that have like wanted to gossip about the birth mum or be like, you know, she's such a bitch or just like awful stuff. Never. In fact, they've challenged me on things and said, you know, what do you reckon it's like for her? Or, which is kind of, sometimes I'm like, but you're my friend.
Yeah, you're on my side.
You know, like, aren't you on my side? But then it's like, good question. Brings me back down to earth.
And I think that's really important, that we, as well as talking about what's going on elsewhere, like we hold the mirror up to ourselves.
Totally. But that's what I want, you know, my kids to know, and for them to grow up like that, you know. And so I got to practice what you preach, even though it can be really difficult.
Yeah. Well, look, it's been so nice speaking to you. I'd love to kind of teleport myself to Oz for a little bit.
No, it's awful at the moment. Honestly, it's been raining so much. It's awful. Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. It's really not pleasant.
Yeah, we get through. Somebody once said to me, oh, now I understand why the British drink so much. I was going to say have a lovely day, but I guess it's evening for you now. So
it is evening. Yeah, it's almost dinner time, which I've stretched out to about 7:15. I can do these days. So
well, I will let you go and eat. But thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah, take care. Thank you so much.
Oh, wasn't she fab? I just loved what Katrina said about being intentional with life. That is something which has really grown in importance to me over the last couple of years, and which has made a huge difference in my life. I don't give energy to negativity or to that which doesn't serve me or my family well anymore. It hasn't been easy. It has been a bit of a journey, but it has definitely made a huge difference. I've cleansed my life of a few toxic people along the way, and my God, it feels good. So a massive thank you again to Katrina. Do look me up if you're ever in the UK. I owe you a glass of wine. As we chatted about, we do have some workshop dates live with just a few spaces left. If you are interested in finding out more, please head to www.stepmumspace.com/workshops. The feedback from women who go on them is brilliant, and I would love to see some of you there. If you've enjoyed the show, please do rate it on your podcast app. It only takes a second, but really helps get us to other stepmums. And I can only make this show thanks to the women who are brave enough to tell their stories. So if you'd like to be on the show, please do get in touch on Instagram @stepmumspace or through the website www.stepmumspace.com. Super special episode coming up next week, so hit subscribe to be notified when it drops. Lots of love.